We are now going to go into a session which is going to be, I think, extremely interesting. I had actually a meeting which was relatively coincidental. I would say 6 to 8 or 10 months ago. There was a gentleman who somehow was on my agenda. He happened to be Belgian, but that was a pure coincidence. And actually, I had 30 minutes planned in my agenda, and the 30 minutes became 1 hour and a half. I found this encounter with him extremely inspiring. And I have always thought that, especially when you are in healthcare, you really have to take your noble purpose very seriously. But we have so much on our plate. You know, the company was not in the best shape, so we had to really stabilize the company first. And then at a certain point in time, I said, well, now it's time to start working on the noble purpose. So we called back that gentleman with whom I had this very interesting encounter. We work with the management board on that together with him. And today I have the pleasure to introduce to you Olivier Ongena, who is actually dedicating his life, I think, to a purposeful life and also to work with small, medium, and big companies to define that noble purpose and to roll that out in organizations. So without further ado, Olivier, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you, Peter, for your introduction. And it is true, it was an amazing, I actually even almost missed my flight because we were so enthusiastic about the conversation. Thank you for having us here. I'm here with my team that you will see in a bit after the break. It is indeed a big pleasure and also an honor for us to be here. It is true that purpose is something which we believe is really essential. And the reason why I'm so hot about purpose is because I was at a certain stage in my life confronted with death. And that made me think very profoundly about the essence of life. And as a young businessman, I realized at that moment that I wanted to do something special. And that special is help organizations, owners of businesses, governments, top teams, regional teams, and also individuals actually go back to the core of what is essential to them, whether that is an organization, whether that is a team, in whatever kind of format, or whether that is an individual. That is asking the question, why am I doing? Why are we doing what I am doing, what we are doing? And what happened is by starting to develop a methodology, starting to work with some clients. I have a corporate background and a family business background. I decided after a very intense sabbatical in 2008 and 2009 to start doing what we're doing now. And we are really proud to be asked by Almirall and be asked by organizations literally around the globe, from very small organizations to some of the most important global players that ask our services and that ask us to help them on a journey. Now, what we would like to do is two things. The first thing is I would like to give you some theory. They said, give a bit of a philosophy of what it really is about and let them understand what the impact is of what you do. Then I'm going to reveal the model that we use, because we have been using that model also in the management board meeting. And after the break and an interview we're going to have with the management board members, we are going, or you will be actually working with what is so relevant for you as an individual and as the organization regarding purpose. That is the practical part, so that it really becomes something concrete and not just some philosophy or just some theory. So, if it's okay with you, I would like you to lead through some things that I would like to share. I'd like to start with this, and it's very much already in connection with what Peter said. I truly believe that working is, under the condition that working is bringing added value to the purpose of the organization for which you work, is the way to self-actualize. It is the way to become more of yourself. We know that when you are putting your passion, your expertise, your life experience, your know-how, your drive, your energy all together, and you connect to a job which is much more than earning some money, and in probably your case, earning good money, is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about men and women, whatever kind of level they have in society, whatever kind of job they have, whatever kind of hierarchical position they have, if they can become more of themselves through the work they do, you create incredibly strong systems and incredibly strong, dedicated, engaged, and motivated people. So I'm not talking about transactional work, where on Friday people are happy that now their real life starts, or when they leave the office at 5 or 6 or at 7 in the evening, like, oh my God, now my life is really starting. And they get stressed on Sunday afternoon because they have to go back to work on Monday, because they are so different at work than who they are really in their life. Well, we don't believe in that. What we say is people are people. And you have one set of values, you have one set of principles, and you take that to work, you take that to your friends, you take that into your family, because you have only one life. Unfortunately, despite what I'm saying and sharing, is this. Look at the figures of 2017, the research done by Gallup, and I really use it all the time, because we see that 18% of the global world population above 18 in 142 countries and regions is actively disengaged. This means, ladies and gentlemen, they don't give a damn about what they're doing. They're totally not connected with their organization. They're just there because they need to earn some money. But the worst is that 67% of people, the active population, is disengaged. So they're also not really connected with what they do. They might be happy to have a job with a nice title, or be earning nice money, or be having great advantages, or maybe having a nice team, but what they really do and what they contribute for them is really not something that they are engaged with. So when you add the figures, this is just scary, because we are talking about 85% of the world population that in one or another way is disengaged. This costs, calculated by the United Nations Fund of Happiness, it costs trillions of lost performance every year. Trillions of dollars of lost performance every year. Imagine that we would have a way of increasing a little bit the motivation and the engagement of people. We are talking about billions of gained performance. Now you can say this is great, this is a research done by Gallup, but these 85%, we don't have that in Almirall, because in Almirall everybody is super engaged. I want to challenge that. I don't have the figures, but I want to challenge that. And maybe even in this room there is people who think like, well, I have to think about really if I'm so engaged with the organization. Okay, that is for after the break. Where does that come from? That we are on the one hand saying that we want organizations to become ecosystems where they push people to really go fully into their performance because of their engagement, and not because we have to install all kinds of systems, external systems to motivate people. And that when people are in such an ecosystem where it is really great to work, where people really feel motivated, and there is organizations, and you will see some of them, that despite that, there is still so many people disengaged. Well, this is because there was this gentleman, or at least what he represents. It is not all his fault, it would be a little bit too simplistic. But this gentleman, which actually is Milton Friedman, as many of you know, who was the Nobel Prize for Economy winner in '76, he had a theory which was obviously very well promoted in the 70s, the 80s, and even in the 90s, that actually what counted was shareholder value. Not stakeholder value, shareholder value. So we are in business to do business, as long as we stay within kind of like certain boundaries. Now we all know what these boundaries are. We have so many examples of Enron, of BP, of Kodak, who have done things that are totally unacceptable. And these are the big ones that everybody knows. But there is other examples of organizations that have had no respect for ecology, that have had no respect for the human ecology, that have had no respect for actually the way how they would do business. So I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that this kind of economy or this economic thinking, it's over. And fortunately, it is over, because what we see is the following. We did research in organizations with whom we work, small and large. And the smallest organization we have worked with is 50 people, The largest organization we work with is 500,000 people, and there is anything in between. We asked some of the people, obviously, because we didn't ask it, because that would be thousands and thousands of people. We asked them, what do you need to be able to liberate the maximum of your work energy? What is it that you would like to get from your bosses, from the organization, to liberate the maximum of your energy? 98% said, we need something that gives sense to our life. 98%. 2% said, we get really motivated, we get really out of our bed by things that we could consider as turnover, top line, bottom line, EBITDA, market share, market value, product development. Only 2%. Now, we started diving deeper in the research, and what we figured out, that the 2% were actually majority the ones who are leading or heavily impacting the enterprise. So far, so good. But the thing is that these people who are at the forefront of the organization, they start creating organizational systems, organizational cultures, and they start developing an organizational leadership that is thinking what will motivate people is by stressing on the turnover, on the bottom line, on EBITDA, on KPIs. And what happens is that they build an organizational system represented by these 2% people being very present in the way how they create ecosystems, where they're actually losing the energy and the drive of the 98% of the people. And so we believe that we have to build a different economic system. We believe that we have to build different organizations. And I got extremely inspired by this publication in Harvard Business Review. And actually what it is about great companies. And it is not the work that was done before from good to great. It is really about, by Jim Collins, it's really about what is it that organizations in this new economy make great. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot of movements going on of organizational thinking and business thinking, such as conscious capitalism, such as B corporations, that are spreading virally around the world, and that more and more organizations, the size of your enterprise and bigger, are also starting to integrate. So what is special about these organizations and this new economic thinking is that these enterprises, they want to create value for society. They actually want to solve what we call the world's problems. And the interesting thing is that they make money. And the even more interesting thing is that they make more money than the organizations who are still in the economic paradigm like we knew it from before. So the question would be, why would we not do this? Why would we not shift to this new economic thinking, as we all know that you solve problems and that you make money and you make more money? So it is actually the interaction between wanting to solve the world's problems and making money that is really of our interest. And we started building a model on that. I have this quote that I really think is interesting. A business that makes nothing but money is a poor business, and I definitely agree with that. It is not me who said it. It was this small entrepreneur of Henry Ford who said it. I think a very wise man. So let's look at where we start. We start with looking at what do most organizations in the classical world do, and that is actually something you need. That is, we have a what. So we will define our objectives, or what we could also call our KPIs. And then we start defining our how. And the how very often is defined through the mission and the vision work we do. It is the strategies and the tactics. I call this the material part of the organizational backbone. Okay, you need that. Now what we do, and this is new, we put next to the material part also what we call the spiritual backbone. That has nothing to do with religion. This is something which is bringing the things deeper in connection with the need for people in the organization to get meaning in their life. So then when we start looking at that spiritual backbone, the first thing we do is we start defining the purpose. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that any organization, we have been looking into 50 big organizations, all of them obviously created by a founder. All of these organizations were similar to each other, is that none of them had as purpose, we want to become the most wealthy organization in the world. All of them wanted to solve, in one or other way, a solution, wanted to bring something that didn't exist, wanted to develop a product or bring a new product into the market, wanted to do something unique, great, never seen or never done before. None of them not even those who exist for more than 2 centuries, had anything of like, we want to be wealthy. What happened is, because they were so connected with a purpose, is that they became very wealthy, because that creates a different energy and a different respect inside and outside the organization. And to finish with the how, we add to that, which is very important, the values that complement the strategies and the tactics. And you will see in the House of Noble Purpose that I'm going to reveal in a couple of minutes how it all comes together. And something is very important that we add, the CPIs, is what we call the caring for people indicators. So very important for us is that we start concentrating on those parameters where we show as leaders that we care for people, because it is by caring for people in a context of purpose that you create a bomb of performance, a bomb of incredible results. I have a list here of things about the force of noble purpose, and I think it's probably boring to have it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to recap it. The force of noble purpose has an incredible amount of things. It energizes an organization, it creates focus, it helps resolve much faster conflicts, if there already are conflicts. It helps to get people aligned. It helps to be very concrete in the communication outward of the organization. It brings a specific spirit into the organization which aligns people. I'll just roll them down so you can see all the different things. And very important is this one. It aligns leadership, strategy, organizational culture, and processes, because you have to be so clear, and the management board is going to share how the process went, so you will understand how important it was in the conversations we had to align all these things, that there is no blur, that there is no gray zone, that there is no confusion about it. And as I said, it works as a compass, and it brings a lot of energy and vitality into the organization. And most of all, and that is why I put it at last, it helps people to feel that they are special, that they're working for an organization in which they are proud. I have seen organizations, ladies and gentlemen, communicating into the workforce, the blue-collar workers in the factories they have around the world. And people were in tears. People said, for the first time, I feel connected with this organization. I'm very good in putting things together, in having the machine work, in doing whatever they were doing. But I never really felt connected with the organization or what we stand for. I felt very connected with my technical part. But now by bringing in this purpose, I feel so connected and I feel so proud, and tears were rolling over the face. And we have seen tears rolling over faces of big macho men, you know, with the special overalls and whatever. It was so touching because we, through purpose, create something which is almost magical. And people say, what is it that you do? I said, it is very simple. You connect from your organizational backbone, from what you stand for, with the hearts of the people. And they will start working. They will start protecting your organization. They will be so proud ambassadors of who you are. Let me give you 2 examples. Now we're getting into some examples so you get it really more concrete and you will be able to compare. We have Carrefour and we have Auchan. Carrefour is driven by a pure short-term thinking, capitalistic, materialistic philosophy. They're trying to solve it, but they don't quite get it, right? They have been changing presidents every year, year and a half. They have hired the best presidents they could get. None of them was possible to transform the organization because they have never really taken the time, instead of always trying to change the strategy, trying to change the processes, to change the purpose, or to connect or to reconnect with the purpose of the founders. So they keep going in something very materialistic, whereas the Auchan holding, which belongs to the Mullier family is very connected with purpose. And all what they do is being sure, and I can tell you, they are a billionaire family, so they have important interests in a capitalist thinking, but at the same time, as I said, bringing purpose and making money is something which really goes together. It is not philosophy and real economy. It is bringing these two together. They understood that purpose for them is important. And that is why the Mullier family and the enterprises that sit under the Auchan holding, without exception, are all extremely successful. And you have ArcelorMittal and you have Tata. We have worked for ArcelorMittal and we stopped working for them because I feel that it is too much a materialistic drive. It is too much about money. especially when once the president said, my big goal is to be the #1 richest man in the world. I don't think that is much of a purpose. It's probably a purpose for him, but I don't think it's very much a purpose that is really making the world vibrate and the people in the organization vibrate. The Tata family, which are very spiritual in the way how they do business, and again, it is an extremely huge conglomerate with lots of interest. They are not pussies, but they are really very serious about being meaningful for society. Same industry, very different ways how the businesses are run on these examples. We have Ikea, which for me is also a very interesting example. And I have been able to speak obviously a lot with the people from Ikea. I recently in London spoke with the new chief designer, and he said, you know, for us, the first thing I learned from the owners is that it is not about selling more products, although they massively sell products, but for us, it is really about doing something for society, hence their purpose, to create a better everyday life for the many people. Starbucks, I had luck of spending time obviously with Schwartz, and when you speak with him, and Schwartz, by the way, he is now so convinced about this economic movement that was launched with this shared value thinking that now he is actually going to run for president in the US. When you think about a coffee at Starbucks being so expensive, and still people go there because there is something special about it, people want to pay the price, because it represents something. It is a community. It is a spirit that has been ignited. I guess that nobody knows Ray Anderson. Ray Anderson is actually an entrepreneur, an American entrepreneur, and he had as vision, they are in the industrial carpet floor tiles, and he said this is a massively polluting industry. So what we want to do is we want to do something very different, and he had two objectives. So I put it not really as, although for him it is his purpose, it is more like kind of like as an objective. He said, I want to transform our own business. I want to be totally sustainable in all what we do. Really in all what we do and in all the interactions we have with all the stakeholders. But amongst that, on top of that, what we want to do is we want to influence the entire carpet industry. And they have become the trendsetter as a small enterprise. And there is, for me, a link also with the conversations we have had in the management board about, well, you know, compared to the big ones, I said, well, you can be the ones who will influence the industry if you do it right, having that clear purpose. He has influenced with his enterprise the industry of the carpets. We have Patagonia, we have so many more. We have worked with Brussels Airlines, which is really an interesting case. There was a lot of strikes, just very briefly, because I'm aware of the time. They had a lot of strikes in the maintenance and engineering department. We worked with these people, and the way how these blue-collar workers were motivated, the maintenance and engineering department is actually where they do the checks and the maintenance of the planes. Each time, obviously, a plane was not being able to be taken out and flying, lots of lost income, because obviously they didn't do their job because they were on strike. I asked them, how do you motivate your people? And they took me to the management cockpit, which was actually really in a huge hangar where there was 3 or 4 planes standing. And it was like a management cockpit with all spreadsheets, you know, what had to be done in which week. I said, interesting that these blue-collar workers will be motivated by that. I don't think so. So what you really think is very important, how many passengers do you have? We have 7.5, at that time, 7.5 million passengers. What is most important for passengers? Safety and comfort. So we started shifting the thinking of these blue-collar workers. If you would make these people responsible, not for just the checking of the technical parts of the planes, but of contributing to the safety and the comfort of the 7.5 million passengers. Ever since, ladies and gentlemen, we did this in 2014, we have never ever had a strike. Very important, Lufthansa became the full owner. They have a very different way of looking at things, and the whole machinery starts shaking again. So shareholders are very important also in the way how you're sustainable with this. One of the biggest enterprises we have been helping to transform is PSA, virtually bankrupt in 2014. They worked massively hard on transforming the organization. Where we are now is they are in the automotive industry. They were able to acquire from General Motors, Opel and Vauxhall. They are talking with other parties. and now they are a multi-billion profitable company in 4 years. This has never ever been shown in the industry, and this has never ever been shown in the automotive industry. So from a very small player where everybody was looking at them like with a lot of irony and sarcasm in 2013, 2014, they're now being considered as the most interesting example. We defined a different purpose for them. Before, it was very much about producing cars. So Peugeot started competing with Citroën, and Citroën with DS, and so they were all competing with each other instead of competing with the outside market. And it is now about designing unique automotive experiences, obviously very different. And then the last one, Straumann, a Swiss company. It's also family-owned. They are a market leader in dental implants. They have about the same size of people as Almirall. They have the slogan, but what is important for them is that it is all about creating smiles and especially restoring confidence. When you have a nice mouth, that people actually will feel confident again in their smile, in their being, and who they are. So you have some examples of companies, and I can tell without any example, all these organizations, and you probably also know it, they are financially very, very successful. There is something that I would like to say about culture. For us, culture really is essential. It is absolutely a competitive advantage. You can have a strong strategy, but if you do not have the right organizational culture, it's not going to work. So culture for us is really very important, and I would like to show you where culture sits. So most organizations are interested in what you see. And what you see is actually, if you compare an organization with an iceberg, it is your results. It's what you get, it's what you have. Okay? Now, where does that come from? If we know that 15% is above the waterline, we know that 85% sits below the waterline. And that is what is actually creating leverage to what you see above the waterline. So if you want to have different results, if you want to have different things, you have to start looking at what sits here. And what sits the deepest in your iceberg as an organization is beliefs and values. And the beliefs and the values, that will drive your actions, what you do. And these two things together, ladies and gentlemen, that makes your culture. Here we are. So now we're talking about culture as a way to make your strategy work. Okay? So who you are, what you believe in, drives your behavior, and that behavior is going to drive your results. Okay? So the way how we have built this in our model is the following, and I'm finishing with this 2-3 more minutes for the organization so they know that I'm going to take 2 more minutes. It all starts with the leadership, and we don't see leadership as just like regular leadership. We call this lovingship. It is loving leadership. Actually, it is leadership where you care for the people. Remember, people need to work in organizations where they feel that they are special and important, where they can realize themselves. For that, ladies and gentlemen, you need to be connected with your people. If you do that through KPIs, it's not going to work. We have the proof. And I think also you're smart enough to know that that is not working. So that is where we introduce the CPIs, the caring for people indicators. The leaders have to really be serious about a noble purpose. That is the why. Okay? So that influences, obviously, the way how they're going to look at why they are in business. That is the roof of our house. Then we have our strategy, and our strategy sits actually in the core, in the middle of our house. This is the different rooms, right? And we have our tactics. Now, if we want the strategy to work, which obviously is driven by our noble purpose, it's highly influenced, and it is not the way around, because often people think, oh, so we need to have a strategy, and then we will define the purpose. No, it's the other way around. You need to have a purpose that will define your strategy. Exactly, for example, as we did it with PSA. We defined clearly a purpose, and then they defined or redefined the strategy. You need to have, in order to work your organization, and to get to that performance, you need to build around your house obviously the walls, which is symbolically represented by the organizational culture. And the organizational culture is supported by the foundations of your house, which are the values and the business principles. So here we are. The values and the business principles, remember where you sit in the iceberg, that drives your behavior. So values and business principles drive behavior of people. For us, values, take them from the wall, take them in the hearts. Often we ask organizations, what are the values? And everybody's kind of like getting very uncomfortable, like, oh, I think we have like 4 values. No, it's 5. No, that was before. No, it's 3. No, we have never had 3. It's 4, you know. And like, what are they? Oh, well, we don't know, you know. And then people start looking somewhere in their booklets or whatever to find the purposes. That is not the purposes we talk about. Values, ladies and gentlemen, is something that you have to live. right? These 4 values that are here are something extremely important because it drives behavior that sits in your culture. It is defining the alignment inspired by the purpose. And then obviously, that culture is going to drive your strategy, okay? So that, the House of Noble Purpose, is the way how we bring the philosophy and the practicalities of these things together, okay? And Esteve is going to explain later on in the talk how we have been using this for Almirall.